Racing, endurance, cyclocross, gravel, they're all drop handlebar bicycles. But what do they really mean? In today's episode, bike fitter James Thomas is going to run through the differences of each, and by the end, you'll hopefully know which one you want.
Racing geometry, generally found on racing bikes. There's a hint in the name of these. They are designed for racing. Examples are Trek Madone, Specialized Tarmac, Scott Foil, Giant TCR, Cervelo S5, Pinarello Dogma, Cannondale Super 6, Cannondale System 6, all these bikes that are generally long, aggressive and low and designed for racing. They're designed around lightweight, efficiency, agility, so they've got short wheelbase, they've got typically quite aggressive riding positions, usually long top tubes, which allows them to, it gives a rider a little bit more space when sprinting. But the negatives, and over the years, these bikes have become increasingly more aggressive as the demands of them have changed.
Just a quick interruption to say that this video is sponsored by Styrkr. We've just released their new Gel 50s. 50 grams of carbohydrates inside one gel, which is the same size as their old gel. How have they done this? They also have two new flavors, mixed berry and citrus fruits. If you've got some races or events coming up, you might want to try the convenience of Styrkr to help you ride faster and perform better. Clearly, berry is the best flavor, so give them a try. If you want to hit the link in the description down below, you get 25% off your first purchase of Styrkr products. So check them out, and thank you to Styrkr for sponsoring this channel and ensuring we can continue to put out all of our videos for free. Back to whatever you were watching.
As a result, their suitability for consumers has diminished. And thanks to the bicycle industry's marketing, and also a little bit thanks to the UCI, in the sense that all bicycles, in order for them to be raced, need to be available to consumers, this has led to, generally speaking, most people riding bikes that are not fit for purpose. By that, I'm talking about bikes that are designed around a 20-year-old 60-kilo athlete and then being sold to an individual who's aged 35 to 60 and sits at a desk all day. We're talking about products that are not fit for purpose. Athletes, first of all, they're paid to ride the product, so who cares whether it fits or not? Secondly, they're lightweight, they've got no upper body mass, they're putting out 300 to 400 watts all day long, they're strong, they're flexible, and they're able to tolerate huge degrees of dysfunction. Whereas consumers, mere mortals like you and I, we can't do that. Like I said earlier, there's a hint in the name with these bikes. If you're going to be racing, go and buy a racing bike. Generally, individuals who are racing, they're usually built like racers. General consumers or weekend warriors who want to ride day to day, it's probably the wrong sort of bike for you. You probably want to be looking at something else. Endurance bikes. Examples of this would be something like Specialized Roubaix, a Cannondale Synapse, Trek Damani, Pinarello X. These bikes generally, as the name suggests, are better suited to longer distance riding, but as such, they have geometric differences in comparison to a racing bike. The front end is taller, it's closer to, so the top tube is a little bit shorter, and generally the geometry is a little bit slacker to allow a more benign ride characteristic. But therein lies the problem. They are a little bit benign, they're a bit mundane, and usually quite boring to ride. The endurance bike in the range, regardless of the brand, is generally, in my opinion, considered like the poor cousin, because it usually results in like cheaper carbon fiber materials, like cheaper raw materials. The whole chassis is generally dumbed down, and that results in like a heavier, less exciting chassis. The one exception to this rule is the new Pinarello Dogma X, although unfortunately it's not quite as good geometrically as the lesser models, but they're going in the right direction. We were just discussing off camera that it would be nice if somebody took like all of the principles of a racing bike from a mechanic's point of view and then just made the thing fit. Generally speaking, endurance bikes are better suited to consumers just due to the fact that they are taller at the front end and shorter in the reach. Furthermore, there are certain individuals, particularly individuals who have shorter torsos and longer legs, who are predisposed to being overly stretched on a bike, who are much, much better suited to endurance bikes. Within our business, if somebody comes in to buy a bike, generally we don't sell them a bike, we sell them a bike fit first. We use a fit first mantra to basically ensure that we're getting them the right bike. The vast majority of off-the-peg bikes that we sell are endurance bikes, but our entire business is generally built around the custom model, which we're going to talk about a little bit later in the video. Something that we are starting to see, which further complicates the whole bike selection process, is bikes or bike brands that are blurring the lines between sort of endurance and racing bike. I mean, like Basso, for instance, a little Italian brand that we sell in here, who hand makes frames in Italy. They have bikes like the Venture and the Astra, which are their sort of lower to middle range bikes that are. They're not quite as racy as a racing bike, but they're nowhere near as relaxed as an endurance bike. Same goes for like the BMC Road Machine. Open makes a bike called the Mind, which is a fabulous bike. So there are some bikes out there that are, as I say, starting to blur the lines. We can talk about a bit of a dying breed of bicycles, we seem to think, because actually we started Googling cyclocross bikes, and basically all that Google throws you is loads of gravel bikes. And there is a distinct difference between a cyclocross bike and a gravel bike. The problem with cyclocross bikes is that they're really only good for cyclocross racing. Historically, certainly from being in the industry, I've heard a lot of people say to me, "Oh, I'm going to buy a cyclocross bike for a winter bike." They make awful winter bikes. They make awful road bikes because very, very short wheelbase. The bottom bracket is very high for better clearance. It's got a steeper head angle. This is generally designed around lower speed riding, and the whole bike is designed around being an ability to shoulder it. Examples of this type of bike, I mean, Canyon makes a bike called the Inflight, Giant makes a bike called the TCX, like the original Cannondale, Supercross was one of them. So there are a few of them, but let's say that seems to be a dying breed, certainly in favour of a gravel bike. Examples of these are, I mean, there's a million and one gravel bikes out there. Cannondale makes a Topstone, Pinarello makes the Gravel, Canyon makes the Grail with that funny Fokker triplane handlebar thing, which Lawrence had horrible, like high-speed shimmy when we were in Vietnam. You remember that? And this is a type of bike that's seeing a real surge in popularity at the moment. Generally speaking, because they fit pretty well, they're massively versatile. They are derived geometrically from endurance bikes, so long wheelbase, slack geometry. But one thing that is worth noting, we're now starting to see, again, the lines being blurred, thank you bike industry, with gravel racing bikes. I mean, an example of that is like the new Specialized Crux, for instance, which has a slightly higher bottom bracket and more aggressive stack and reach figures than the historic Crux, and certainly more so than the Diverge, which is their gravel orientated bike. Generally, they have wider tyre clearances, it's more off-road orientated, so some of them will take up to a 50mm tyre. They're obviously disc brake specific, as are most bikes these days, and they usually have all sorts of kind of bolt-on options for adding bags and racks and all sorts of other bits and pieces. So as a result, they tend to result in being very, very good winter bikes. My winter bike's a gravel bike. Custom bikes. As I explained earlier in the video, in my opinion, a lot of bikes that are sold on the marketplace today are not really fit for purpose. They're designed around 20-year-old, 60-kilo athletes, or they're generally pretty dull and benign. But is it too much to ask for both? Is it too much to ask for a bike that is lightweight and fun to ride and fits well? This is where custom comes in. Examples of the brands that we sell come from Fesca from the Czech Republic, Salto from Veneto in Italy. They're both carbon fabricators. They make custom carbon frames, in some cases with custom layup, which is specific to the rider's weight and riding style. You then have metal fabricators from Stelbel from Italy and Moots from Steamboat, Colorado, who specialize in titanium. And the benefit of going with a custom bike is it's built around the rider. With custom bikes, there are fewer concessions to the way the bike rides in order to get it to fit. By that, I'm talking about having to reduce the stem length beyond where it was intended in order to get the thing to fit. Having loads of spaces under the stem, having to put an inline post or an inline seat post into a bike that wasn't designed around one. It's worth noting that when a bicycle frame size is designed, the stem is an intrinsic part of that. It's directly linked and correlated to the head tube angle and the wheelbase. So if you're taking the stem length beyond where it was intended, you're usually negatively impacting the way that the bike rides. Too long, you're making it very vague. Too short, you're making it very unstable. And therein lies the problem with a lot of off-the-peg bikes. A custom bike, generally speaking, will handle better, it'll look better, and it'll fit better. It's worth pointing out that a custom bike can now be had for significantly less money than a top-of-the-range S-Works, for instance. I mean, £13,000 for a Tarmac SL8, in my opinion, is a little bit like spending £100,000 on a Ford that isn't a GT40. It's, you're talking about something that is mass produced in the Far East, popped out of a mold, and it's made in the same factory as the cheaper stuff. I'm going to upset a few people here, I know, but when you're talking about something from Fesca, which can be had for almost half the price, yeah, I'm talking £8,000 for a complete full custom, full carbon bike that is handmade for you. It's an Atelier product, it's made to a significantly higher standard, and it's designed around the rider. So I know which one I would rather have.
That's all for today's episode. Please let us know if you have any questions for James in the comment section down below. If you want to check out his website, there'll be a link in the description, and please subscribe to this channel for more.